Hello, what's your idea of a great threesome? This is mine. Today I'm going to be going head to head with the Triumph Bonneville T100 and the T120. It's a battle of British brilliance. In this video, I'm going to take a look at the similarities and differences between these two gorgeous machines and take them both for a ride. So if your dilemma is which one to go for, keep watching. Hopefully I'll give you a few hints and tips. I'm Bonnie English. Welcome to the Two Bonnies. There are many similarities between these two gorgeous machines. So let's start with those first. Their frames are identical. They both have the same wheelbase, which in theory means that their turning circle and their handling will be very similar. They have the same wheel and tyre configuration, and both are chain driven. Their fuel tanks are exactly the same with the same capacity of 14.5 litres. So clearly, the major difference between these two fantastic machines is the power plant. The T120 has a 1200cc engine, which drives a 6-speed gearbox. The T100, however, has a 900cc engine and a 5-speed gearbox. Both share the same electronic fuel injection system, which is cleverly hidden behind this imitation but beautiful carburetor. So that's the main mechanical differences out of the way. What else is different? Well, to be honest, most of it is just window dressing. You might like to consider the T100 as the base model, the bridesmaid, and the T120 with all the bling is definitely the bride. Let's look at the differences. Let's look at the front of both machines, starting with the headlights. On the T120 you have LED daylight running lights, bit of a mouthful, and on the T100 just your standard incandescent bulbs. Moving down to the suspension, on the T120 we have rather retro but sexy looking rubber boots. On the T100 we just have naked forks. Sounds quite fun too though. Down to the wheels, and the rims on this one are polished aluminium, whereas on the T100 just your simple black steel. The T120 has beautiful chrome exhaust system, which is complemented by brushed aluminium gear casing and lovely Triumph detail. On the T100 we have a brushed steel system and a black gear casing. Now, I own Strawberries and Cream, the T100, and I actually prefer it. It's all a matter of choice though. So let's look at the braking system. The T120 is obviously a more powerful machine, so therefore it needs more powerful brakes. The T120 has a twin-disc 4-pot braking system, whereas the T100 has a single-disc 2-pot braking system. However, the T100 has a floating disc, so probably punches above its weight and does more than it says on the tin. The back brakes on both machines are the same. They both have single-disc, single-pot rear brakes. Both bikes also have identical ABS traction control systems. So visually, the instrument cluster on the T120 and the T100 are the same. However, the T120 has a few hidden extras. The first one is that this one has a wet and road riding mode. Whew, tricky to say. If you've had a couple of drinks, make sure you don't drink and drive. The second one is that it has a very basic but effective cruise control. Finally, before I take them both for a ride, I did mention earlier that the fuel capacity of both machines was the same, which is 14.5 litres. However, the T100 is a little bit more economical and delivers about 350 kilometres to the tank, whereas the T120 is a bit more guzzly and needs filling up after 300. So much for all the facts and figures about the two bikes. But what really counts is the ride. So, although I've got leathers on, I'm not really dressed appropriately. So I'm going to get changed and see what these two machines can do. What? Oh, wrong leathers. Leathers on, let's take these two bad girls for a ride. And the bikes too. So firstly, let's test out the T100, my very own strawberries and cream. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to start with the T100, which is my bike, and I absolutely love her. Just going to take her for a little ride around my local estate, sticking to low speeds and low gears. I find that she handles really beautifully in the low gears. First gear is pretty tall, which is great for stability and manoeuvrability, particularly when riding in an urban environment. With the pretty upright seating position and the relatively wide handlebars, I find that she handles really well for slow manoeuvres, parking and turning in the road, that sort of thing. Still in first gear, definitely a nice, easy ride. The T100 is relatively lightweight as well, so great for your relatively beginner riders, I would say. Okay, so I'm going to pick her up a little bit now on this straight section just to see how she moves up through the gears. I'm in third gear now, doing 60 k's an hour, needing to change up into fourth. Just love the sound of this machine. Very smooth transition up through the gears. Still sticking at 60 k's an hour here in fourth gear. Slowing down for the corner. Just a beautiful, easy, relaxed ride. And next, the bit I've been really looking forward to, taking out my friend's T120, which, by the way, is called Hugh. Hi, Hugh. Okay, Hugh, let's see what you can do. So I'm now on the T120. First time I've ridden this machine. Very excited to compare the two bikes to see what the difference is and the similarities. And first impressions, just riding around again in first gear, low speed, doesn't feel really that different. Still feels really nice and stable. Feels like there's pretty good manoeuvrability. Does feel a little bit heavier, which it is a little bit heavier, but not noticeably so. I'm guessing maybe it's slow manoeuvres parking and tight turns, it might be a little bit trickier, but so far feels very similar. First gear on this machine is also pretty tall, but I am now finding that I'm going to have to change up into second, perhaps a little bit quicker than I did on the T100. So I'm now in second gear. Certainly a lovely, smooth, easy ride still. I mean, basically, apart from the fact that this one has 6 gears, not 5, and the engine size is larger, the frame, the tyre configuration is all the same. So really, it should handle pretty much the same too, I'm guessing. So as before, I'm going to pick him up on the straight now, see how he handles going up through the gears. So up into second, and into third. Like the T100, gets to 60 k's very happily in third, changing up now into fourth. I would say this one definitely has a bit more grunt. Beautiful ride. So really, apart from the fact that this one feels a little bit heavier and a little bit pokier, I can't really say that there's a huge amount of difference between the two at low speeds. I suppose the true test will be when I get to the higher speeds and higher gears later on. Oh, that was a bit of fun. So how does the acceleration compare with both machines? Well, I'm going to take Hugh out first, the T120, and see how quickly he can get up to 100 k's an hour. It's not a scientific test, but it's going to be how I ride normally. So I'll be changing gear at roughly 3,500 RPM and go up through the gears and see how I go. Okay, I'm going to get the T120 up to 100 k's an hour in as quick a time as possible. Quick mirror check and off I go. Second gear. Third. Fourth. 100. Okay, same again with the T100, going to get her to 100 kilometers an hour in as quick a time as possible. Quick mirror check and off I go. Second, third, 100. So I'm now going to test the brakes on both machines. It's not going to be scientific, but I'm going to take both machines up to 60 kilometers an hour, stand on the brakes and see how long it takes for them both to stop. Let's test out the braking on this T120. 60 k's an hour, clear behind. Pretty sharp braking. Again, same thing, going to test the braking. Reducing it to 60 k's an hour. Nothing behind. And again, pretty sharp braking, perhaps not as good as the T120, but still pretty good. Well, so much for low speed manoeuvres and accelerating and braking and testing and stuff. I'm going to take both bikes out now for just a bit of a ride and have some fun. The engine power and braking capacity specifications of the two machines would suggest that the T120 is a significantly more powerful beast compared to the T100. However, I think my very basic but real-world test and this ride shows that there isn't a great deal between them. This is probably thanks to the amazingly versatile 5-speed box on the T100. But I think it's fair to say that the extra grunt of the T120 makes it the better for touring or carrying a pillion. The gears on both bikes are superb. They pull in every gear. Everything feels effortless. The additional 6th gear in the T120 only comes into its own on the highway, and like any overdrive, you wouldn't want to use it for an overtake. In fact, I found that 4th gear in both bikes is a great versatile gear for that task. The T100 with only 5 gears is a more relaxing experience, I think. You do a lot less shifting, another plus for novice riders. The gearbox on the T120 is no doubt the right configuration for the 1200cc motor, but I do prefer the 5-speed gearbox. Both bikes handle beautifully, but the T100 definitely feels more nimble when slow turning and manoeuvring. The T100 is only 8 kilograms lighter than the T120. It certainly feels lighter to ride, but not significantly so. It is possible much of the additional weight is in the 6-speed gearbox and therefore lower down. The clutch is noticeably heavier on the T120. It's not a showstopper, but by the end of the day I could feel it. I just love the engine note of both bikes. Both have that distinctive 2-pot rumble that once heard can never be forgotten. So I've had a great day trialling both of these machines, and they are both equally fantastic. But one thing I haven't covered with you so far is the price. As of April 2025, in the UK, the T100 retails at a starting point of £9,595, whereas the T120 it's £11,995, a whopping difference of £2,400. In the US, the T100 is a starting point of $10,995 as opposed to the T120, which is $12,895. Only a difference of $1,900 US. So really, if you are thinking of buying a Bonneville in the UK, it's a bit of a deal breaker. £2,400 is a big difference. You might have to start raiding your piggy bank. So if you go for the T120, what extras are you getting for your £2,400? Well, cruise control. It's basic, but it is good for long journeys. Riding mode. I am a big fan of the Triumph riding modes, but to be honest, the rain road on this T120 is really rough. I don't like it. It has 6 gears, but to be fair, the 6th gear is really just like an overdrive and probably would only be used on long journeys and on highways and freeways. In comparison, the T100 with 5 gears doesn't feel stressed at all at high speeds. So really it's just a matter of choice. Obviously the engine size on the T120 is larger, so it's more powerful, but the downside to that is that the fuel economy is not as great, and therefore also the range is much lower. But at the end of the day, who can go past the aesthetics of this machine? Triumph have really stepped up a notch with the aesthetics on the T120 with its gorgeous retro styling. On the negative side of things on the T120, I did find the clutch pretty heavy. I think if you're a bloke with larger hands, you wouldn't struggle, but as a female with smaller hands, I did find it a little bit hard work after I'd been on the bike for a little while. Also, cost-wise, you're paying quite a bit extra, but it was disappointing to find that heated grips and a centre stand weren't included as standard. Particularly that is the case in the Australian and I believe the UK market. What about the T100? Well, it really isn't a deal breaker in terms of power if you're riding solo. I didn't feel there was a huge amount of performance difference between the two bikes. If you're going for a larger bike for the first time, I would definitely recommend the T100. It's cheaper, it's lighter weight, easier to manoeuvre and handles beautifully. You won't grow out of it and it certainly won't bite you. And at the end of the day, why did I choose the T100? Well, the T120 doesn't come in red. So which one to go for at the end of the day? If you're considering two-up riding, the extra 300cc's and the twin disc brakes, go for the T120. Solo riding, however, I didn't really feel there was a huge amount of difference between the two. If you're an entry-level rider and you're going for a larger bike for the first time, go for the 900. You won't grow out of it. It's lighter and it's easier to handle. I'm Bonnie English. I hope you enjoyed my review of the two Bonnies. If you did, please like or subscribe.